On the eve of the convoy's arrival in Ottawa, the streets felt more like a party than a protest. Honks, diesel exhaust, and excitement filled the air. Drivers rounded city blocks, blaring their horns, blasting music, and shouting "freedom" as they passed cheering gaggles on the sidewalks. The early arrivals, truckers who showed up on their own rather than in the several convoys set to descend on Canada's capital, staked positions on Wellington Street and its immediate side streets. Many of them wouldn't leave those spots for 3 weeks. The scene indoors was just as vibrant. People who only knew each other from Facebook and Telegram groups met for the first time and embraced. Hotels that had sat empty for much of the previous 2 years filled up. In the days that followed, the atmosphere would become even more festive. A flatbed truck rigged with a high-powered sound system became the main stage, hosting speakers and musicians throughout the week. People sang and danced into the night. The same stage hosted church services on Sunday mornings. And then there were the bouncy castles and the hot tub. Walking into Convoy land felt like taking a step into 2019, a time before mask mandates and vaccine passports. This is the world the protesters were trying to reclaim. If you were there, you'd never know the participants were supposed to be a bunch of violent, hateful insurrectionists. Contrary to what you've been told, they weren't. As the truckers neared Ottawa, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau dismissed them as a small fringe minority with unacceptable views. Canadian media coverage oscillated between dismissive and slanderous. One outlet highlighted a purported security expert's warning that convoy donors might be financing terrorism. Canada state broadcaster CBC mused that Russian actors might be behind everything. When the convoy established its semi-permanent presence in Ottawa, which one organizer dubbed Trudeau's truck stop, the stories that trended on Twitter and dominated mainstream media coverage were almost universally negative. Stealing food from the homeless, desecrating monuments, Nazi and Confederate flags, and so on. Most of these incidents were wildly misrepresented. The convoy's organizers were swift to condemn bad actors in their midst, and none of them were representative of the protesters as a whole. Nonetheless, these stories helped critics craft a narrative that the convoy was made up of a bunch of lawless, callous white supremacists. These controversies generated far more buzz online than they did on the streets of Ottawa. Generally, I only learned of them when I was back in my hotel room warming up and recharging my phone. I didn't see a single swastika or Confederate battle flag in my travels, although from the news coverage you'd think they were everywhere. There were lots of "fuck Trudeau" flags and no shortage of signs delving into any number of conspiracy theories involving 5G, George Soros, and Bill Gates. But sprinklings of incivility and kookiness are not violence. The divide between the media's portrayal of the convoy and the reality on the ground was stark. Even though the mainstream Canadian coverage occurred at close range, the action was all unfolding steps from Ottawa news bureaus. Reporters and columnists insisted the truckers and their supporters were dangerous goons. American and British outlets gave the convoy a fairer treatment. Some of this was no doubt exacerbated by convoy organizers' refusal to engage with most media outlets, and the tendency of some protesters to heckle or harass journalists they encountered, resulting in unflattering news clips that further maligned the convoy. People who saw for themselves what the convoy was like grew more distrustful of the media's coverage of it. Some of my most praised coverage was simply live video streaming, showing viewers the unfiltered reality of life in what Ottawa police called the red zone.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.